make sure we know who is going to be presenting them. I think I saw Senator Balfour here. He's going to present his bill. Is that correct, Senator? Okay. Senate Bill 393 by Representative Matt Ramsey. Okay. And 454 by Senator Unterman. Is she here? Okay. It may be a while before we get to that one. So anyway, I know we've got a lot of people. This is an issue that's probably circulating around the state, either through polls or questions and so forth and so on. I know we've got a lot of people here from different denominations, from churches, and I don't know how many people intend to speak, and I'm not trying to cut out anybody from expressing their views. But if we've got several people from the same denomination, I would like for y'all to think about getting a spokesman to speak for your denomination, if you're a Methodist or whatever. Rather than everybody get up, I think the message will be the same for each church group, and I don't want to eliminate anybody that desires to speak, but if you've got more than one denomination here, I would like for y'all to try to get together and designate a spokesman to speak on your behalf for your denomination. We need to pass out a sign-up sheet. We're going to put it over here on the table for those who desire to speak on all the bills. But right now we'll go ahead and begin deliberation. Let's be at ease a while and let y'all go ahead and sign up, and that way we'll have an idea of how many speakers we're going to have to have present something. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I think we probably got all signers that are willing to sign up or wants to sign up. And so we'll now call this meeting, the regulated interests, to order. And first on the agenda will be Senate Bill 385 by Senator Don Balfour. Senator, you've got the floor.
Hard questions for you. This is a simple bill that would allow limousines to be able to sell in the back of the limousine.
Keep us in the dark.
There you go. This is a bill that would allow, if you had gotten a limo and you're going to a concert, you're going out to dinner, you're spending a night in a limo, it would allow you to purchase the alcohol that's in the back of the limousine. It would set up a criteria where the limo carriers would pay a $50 annual fee and a $15 annual fee for each vehicle in their fleet. I think this is a responsible answer to, obviously drinking and driving. I would say that many people, I didn't realize to begin with that you couldn't buy alcohol in the back of a limo to begin with. I think probably X amount of people probably are already doing that. But basically this would make legal something that people are already doing, I believe, and I think it's a responsible thing to do. Mothers Against Drunk Driving, people like that would appreciate us passing this, and if there are no questions, I'll yield the well. If there are questions, I'll answer them, or I'll let my chauffeur answer.
Any member of the committee have any questions? Yeah, you do. Representative Mitchell.
Certainly want to thank the senator for bringing this legislation. It was my understanding that one could, in fact, purchase alcohol and bring it into the limousine. So my understanding would be this standard that would be created here would be a much safer way to go about that practice.
Absolutely. Right now, I guess if I rented a limousine for the night, I could go to the liquor store and buy whatever I wanted to and bring it in the back and drink it. That currently is legal. The problem is, obviously, limousines don't have a liquor license but if you, quite often what happens is we don't go to the bar if you're renting a limo and the limo driver has a 6-pack of beer back there on ice, and if you drink 2 of them, they charge you $2 a bottle, and it's $4. I wouldn't know anything about this, but as I mentioned to someone in a paper the other day, I'm close to a teetotaler, but this, I think, is just a responsible thing to just make in the law something that most places already have, and most people probably believe we already have.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Freeman, you're recognized for question.
Mr. Chairman, thanks for bringing this bill. Just point of clarification. Passing this would require the limo driver to apply for an application. Is that right?
The limo company already has would already be registered and have passed all these other background checks and everything else that they're required to pass.
But they're going to get a liquor license, right?
They would require them to pay $50 as a company, and then $15 per limousine. In
my opinion, passing this gives Revenue Department more say-so over what happens in that limousine.
Oh, absolutely. It would let you know what's going on, because most of the drivers would do this, and it would give you a little better understanding of what's going on. No doubt about it.
Mr. Chairman, at proper time, I'd like to be recognized for a motion.
Any other questions to the committee? Okay, you're recognized for a motion. Well, excuse me, hold it. Les Snyder, would you like to add anything further? You're on the list to speak. Okay, Representative Freeman, you're now recognized for a motion. You heard the motion. Is there a second? Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of Senate Bill 385 indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign.
Thank you, Mr.
Senate
Chairman.
bill
Appreciate
goes out with a do pass recommendation, Senate Bill 385. The next bill up is Senate Bill 393 by Senator Chance, and I understand that he's been called home on due to sickness of the family, and Representative Matt Ramsey will present the bill.
And with the chairman's permission, I'm going to have Jackie Kinlaw join me up here, representative from the Pawnbrokers Association of Georgia. I beg the committee's indulgence. This is an issue I was asked to pinch hit about half an hour ago, so I'm playing catch up here. So I'm going to have Mr. Kinlaw join me up here and answer any questions you might have. It's a pretty simple proposal. Right now we know of 3 municipalities in Georgia that are charging a fee on a pawn transaction. When an individual takes an item in to be pawned, they are assessing a fee for the transaction. This is effectively a targeted tax that is being borne by the business and the individual that is having having to pawn the item, which more often than not is the working poor. This is a fee that really bears no relationship to a cost that's being incurred by government, and really it's just a targeted tax that ultimately experience in other states indicate it's just ultimately going into the general funds of the municipality and or county that's assessing the tax. So what we've done is the legislation proposes to prohibit such charges being assessed against the transaction, and it doesn't preclude any other regulation of a pawnbroker or a pawn shop in a community. And I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Kinlaw to add to that.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Jackie Kinlaw. I'm the president of the Pawnbrokers Association of Georgia, and I'm here today to ask for your favorable support for Senate Bill 393. This is a bill that would preclude local jurisdictions, cities and counties from passing ordinances that would put a specific tax or fee on a pawn transaction. We, again, as the representative has said, we have seen this across the country where cities and counties are obviously looking diligently anywhere they can to generate additional revenue, and this is one of the things that they've come up with to try to generate additional revenue that flows into the general fund. However, it's targeting our customers, and our customers are many times on the lower socioeconomic strata of our society, and they come to us to borrow money. Many times they're borrowing $10, $15, $35, $45. Our average loan is only like $70. And for a city or county to be able to impose a fee of $1.50 or $3 or $3.50 on top of the fees that the customers pay into the pawn shop in order to perform the functions that the law enforcement community is already garnering taxpayers' dollars to perform anyhow. This is not any additional. The legislature has never seen fit to charge the law enforcement community with doing anything in particular as it relates to pawn transactions. If the law enforcement community decides that they want to do something above and beyond what they do for some other segment, that's certainly up to them. But they're asking us to pay into the general fund a fee for the law enforcement community to perform the functions that they are required to perform for all the citizens of the state. So we ask that that you give us some support in passing this bill and prohibiting the cities and counties from passing this unfair tax. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that anyone has.
Let me get you to...
Can I add one more thing, Mr. Chairman, before I think it needs to be mentioned. The Pawnbrokers Association in Georgia has voluntarily made the decision in recent years. Every item that is brought in for pawn, they are electronically transmitting that item to the local law enforcement agency to help facilitate the process of the local law enforcement agency checking the items to ensure there's not any stolen items that are part of a pawn transaction. So I think that bears mentioning. So.
Yeah. My question along that line is, are you required by the law now to, when goods are brought into you, that you ascertain whether or not they're stolen? Is that a requirement that a mandated requirement that you have to do?
Mr. Chairman, we don't have a way to determine whether or not it's been stolen ourselves. What we do is we provide that information to the law enforcement community, which have the authority to access GCIC and NCIC records, and they perform that function if they so choose to. What we do on our end is we provide the information to them in the format that they want, so that they can check that electronically. And in the old days, they had to have an individual sitting in there typing in all the information, but in modern day, that's all done electronically now.
Representative Freeman, you're recognized.
I was wondering if you've said you've identified 3 cities that are taxing now. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And is there any numbers on how much money that tax has generated and where it's going?
I can only give you one example of that, and that one of the cities is in Rome, and one of the pawnbrokers up there in 2007 paid in something to the tune of $24,000.
For how many checks is that?
Rome's charge is 40 cents per transaction. We see 50 cents in some locations and $1.50 in some locations.
But you're providing them with the information electronically as well, right?
That is correct, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Representative Jurgensen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Following up on the question there, Rome is one. Can you tell us the 2 other cities that are?
Yes, sir. The 2 other cities are Chamblee and Garden City in Georgia. Now, there are other cities, of course, across the country.
What about any counties that you're aware of?
No counties are at this point in time doing it.
Thank you.
Representative Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the first time I've looked at this, but I'm looking at the new language, and it says, however, no municipality, county, or local government may enact local laws or ordinances that require the payment of any fee or tax related to a specific pawn transaction or purchase. If you go by your language, then you're exempting a pawn broker from any loss or splosh tax. Now, is that what you're trying to do? Because it says exempt from any local ordinances.
Okay, sir. And the answer is no. We're not trying to. We're not. This bill doesn't have anything to do with a sale. The term purchase in there has to do when we purchase something from a customer. In other words, if somebody brings in a television to us, they can either borrow money on it as a pawn transaction, or they can sell that item to us, and that's considered to be a purchase from us to them. But the actual sale of merchandise, the retail sale of merchandise we have in the store, is not covered by this bill. We're not trying to do anything on the
Can I follow up, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
It doesn't specifically say that. If I'm looking at it, it says any purchase. So I think in pawn shops, don't they purchase items that they sell to the public also? In the ones I've been in, and if that's the case, this deletes them from paying any tax.
Not on the transaction where we sell something to the general public. This bill only targets items that are coming into the pawn shop, not anything that's going out of the pawn shop.
It says specific pawn transaction or purchase.
Yes, sir. And once again, if in the pawn code, there are sort of a dual definition in there that the term purchase is used when I, as a pawnbroker, purchase a television from a customer that doesn't want it. If he's got a 19-inch television and he just bought a big flat screen and he wants to get rid of his 19-inch, instead of borrowing money on it, he'll come in and sell it to me, and that's considered to be the purchase.
Okay. Representative Mitchell.
You know, Mr. Chair, we don't have the benefit of having the entire code section here. The rest of the code section definitely delineates better. I would like to hear from Legislative Counsel what her feeling is on Representative Shaw's position.
What is it, 10?
In terms of not having the entire code section, I believe that what you see in front of you in 44-12-135 as well as in 44-12-136 is the full code sections of both those code sections.
Is that right?
Yes, sir. I believe that it is. Because otherwise we would typically put subsection A or subsection B as revised as always.
Then the definition sections would be where?
Those would be earlier in that particular chapter. And
Representative Shaw's position is that we would this perhaps may be exempting them from taxation, like the SPLOST and the like. And your position would be?
my position would be, first of all, I'm not as familiar with those particular tax laws to see how those are particularly worded. You know, to the extent that there is a question about the specific language, certainly if I was directed to, I could, you know, try to make it so that there's not that question, if that's what you're asking.
There are a number of definitions in 4412-130 that may be instructive to the debate, and this was just handed to me. I don't know if Legislative Council can pull that up.
I'm experiencing some technical difficulties, but I am trying to do that.
Okay. Representative Jurgensen, you have a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In looking at this, and I guess it would be a question that might fix this issue. If you look on lines 14 and 15, starting on 14, however, no municipality, county, local government may enact local laws or ordinances that require the payment of any fee or tax related to a specific pawn transaction. If you put a period after transaction and delete or purchase, would that not suffice? Because a transaction, by definition, is covered, would cover a purchase.
Sale or purchase.
Right.
That's right.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I'm reading from a copy of the code, and it says under definitions, pawn transaction means any loan on the security of pledged goods or any purchase of pledged goods. That's directly out of the code, and that's the purchase that is addressed in this bill.
So if we struck the words "or purchase" in the bill, that would cover your concern?
No, sir, but it would not, and the reason it wouldn't is, once again, we have customers that come in to borrow money from us on a television, and we have customers that come in to sell us that television. So we need to have the pawn can either, depending on who you're talking to and what you're reading, can mean just the loan, or it can also include, as it says here, it also includes the purchase of pledged goods. I'm not, obviously not legislative counsel. I don't know if taking the word purchase out there or not, but we don't want to differentiate between someone borrowing money from us and someone selling us property. Either one they're doing should not be taxed on the transaction coming in. When that item, if they sell it to us, if we turn around then and sell it at retail, then we would collect sales tax and any SPLOST and all the other, because that's a retail sales transaction as opposed to a pawn transaction. Pawn and the purchase that's related in this bill has to do with items coming into the pawn shop as opposed to items going out of the pawn shop.
Representative Tomlin.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to suggest the word any fee or any tax could also be read as all fees and all taxes, and I'd like to suggest that we table this motion and just get back to it as quick as possible and address that one particular line.
That's a form of a motion.
I'd like to make a motion we table.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign.
No.
Show of hands. Those in favor of tabling it, show by raising your hand. 1, 2, 3. Those opposing it, like signs. 1 and 2. The motion carries. What we will do with this is put it in committee, study committee, and we hopefully can come back next week and get this confusion and make sure that the thing is clean. So we won't take any action until we get back with y'all and let you come back before us on it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Detective Gore and Ms. Gwynn, I guess you may want to, since the bill has been tabled, like for you to come back if you have any thing to say about it, possibly next Wednesday. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. The next bill on the agenda is the bill we've all been looking for and waiting for with bated breath, is Senate Bill 454 by Senator Renee Unterman. Ms. Unterman, you're recognized for presentation of your bill.
We got all kinds of gadgets up here. Can I give you this? I have 2 copies of an aerial map. Got. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I come before you to bring Senate Bill 454. And as most of you already know, if you've read in the newspaper or heard on the TVs, we're very excited in Gwinnett County to have a new baseball stadium being built. And fortunately, it's in my district, in Senate District 45, and we're delighted to be able to have it. It's on the east side of I-85. If you go up I-85 and are familiar with the area, the Mall of Georgia is on the left side if you're going north, and the new stadium would be built on the right side of I-85. And the Chamber of Commerce and members of the community negotiated very heavily to attract the Atlanta Braves farm team from Richmond, Virginia, to relocate at the new stadium. And I brought the aerial map, and one of the things that they found when they were negotiating and working on the contracts was kind of a oops. Gwinnett County is a wet county, and it serves alcohol. It serves beer and wine and mixed drinks. It's a wet county. But unfortunately, in the state law, and what this law does, this bill proposes, is to change it so that if you're in a city, you can also be in a county and serve beer and wine at a stadium. Right now, I have lots of people get confused because they say, well, I go to the Atlanta Braves and I go to the Fulton County Stadium, but that's in the city of Atlanta. There was some changes made a few years ago because they ran into the same incidents with racing, and the NASCAR, the Atlanta Motor Speedway, was also not in a city, it was in a county. And they made an exception a couple of years ago to include it. But at that time, they did not include any other stadiums. This particular stadium is going to be a quality. I guess most of you know that in Gwinnett County we seem to do things right. We want to build things very nicely. We have good zoning laws. And it's a mixed-use development. If you look at that aerial map, it's on 12 acres of land on Georgia Highway 20. And the thing that is so ironic about it is the fact that because we are a wet county, that you literally could almost hit a baseball and hit it into a facility that would be selling beer and wine on a Sunday. So it's kind of ironic that you could go to the Monterey Mexican restaurant, which is number 18, and get a mixed drink on Sunday after the laws allow you to be able to have it. But if you were sitting in that stadium, you could not buy a beer. And as we all know, beer, baseball, and peanuts, I've said it over and over and over, are as traditional as American pie. And people who go to a baseball stadium want to be able to have the ability to be able to drink a beer. So I made this map, and the other thing that I find just amazing to me, that as we've grown with the Mall of Georgia area, which is very commercialized, if you look at this map, you can see the designation of all of these other restaurants. And on this map, this is about a mile away from this green area to right up here where you could purchase a beer. And the names of the restaurants, they're very good restaurants. Not an advertisement for them, but they are very good restaurants. You have Red Lobster, Romano's Macaroni Grill, Longhorn Steakhouse, Mimi's Cafe, O'Charlie's, a lot of Mexican restaurants, Bonefish Grill, Provino's, Foster's Grill, Buckhead Pizza Company, TGI Fridays. So it's not that we're particularly saying that if you did not have this, you couldn't go someplace else on a Sunday afternoon. There will be people on Sunday afternoon sitting in these restaurants drinking beer. So the logic is, why can't you be sitting in the stadium on a Sunday and drink a beer and watch the game? So when you look at the legislation, it's very easy. It just changes 2 words to include a municipality or a county. And like I said, it was an oversight when they were working on their contracts. It was an oversight that the law did not include throughout the whole state, that you could be in a county and be in a stadium. And this particular law allows it in a stadium with seating capacity in excess of 2,500 people. This stadium will have approximately 10,000 seats. And you can tell by looking again at the map, there's a lot of vacant land surrounding the stadium property. So you can assume, with the rate of growth that we have in Gwinnett County, which is astronomical, has been for a long time now, that there will be other restaurants and other commercial facilities, hotels that will be built around the stadium that will be serving beer on Sunday. Mr. Chairman, I'll be glad to answer any questions if I can.
The definition of public stadiums and coliseums and so forth, I assume by the word auditorium, it doesn't necessarily have to be a sporting event. It could be any auditorium that has a capacity in excess of 2,500 people.
Yes, sir, that's my understanding. Okay. And this would apply throughout the state.
Okay.
And if you look at the economic development and the impact, this is not just for Gwinnett County. This is for a whole region. This is on the northern end of Gwinnett County. The suburbs of metropolitan Atlanta, some of the most affluent areas in the whole state of Georgia. So this stadium will be a draw of people coming from all over our region and hopefully from Atlanta that will go out and see a farm team.
Any other questions from the committee? Okay, thank you very much. We have many speakers. First on the list is Mike Griffin.
Mr. Chairman, will I be able to close after these, or should I go ahead and close now?
Whatever.
Okay, I'll wait and close when they,
okay.
In case I have a rebuttal.
It may be longer than, okay. Mike Griffin, if you could, I'm going to ask you, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 speakers to address this bill. So if you would be brief in your statements, no longer than 5 minutes, if you could condense it in that period of time. You're recognized.
Chairman, why'd you say that before a Baptist preacher got up here? Let me say something. Mr. Chairman, thank you for the opportunity to be able to speak before you today. I represent Jim Beck and Christian Coalition, and he wanted to know all of the members of the committee that he did want to be here. He is flying back from Washington on a business trip today. He has given you a envelope there. It has a letter in it that he's given to each of you, again thanking you for the opportunity to work with you on this important piece of legislation. My name is Mike Griffin, and I'm also a pastor at Liberty Baptist Church in Hartwell, Georgia, and have worked many times in dealing with alcohol and liquor issues. I've served as publicity chairman for Citizens Against the Legalization of Liquor. I had an opportunity to testify last year. One of the things that we're concerned about, and I heard you say anything about that today, and that is, will this bill be amended, do you think, regarding opportunity for Sunday sales of package and other type of, if I might ask that question, Mr. Chairman.
There'd be a strong possibility that would be the case.
Okay. Well, we basically have a two-pronged approach here that we're concerned. I guess let me just say very quickly about this particular bill, and that is it's sort of been labeled as the Braves bill, you know, and so anybody come out against this like you're against the Braves, I hope they have a good year. I've already got tickets. But the bottom line is this is not just about the Braves. It is about other public venues. That was mentioned just a minute ago by the senator. And by you, that it also includes other auditoriums. So this is not just about Gwinnett County. So it does involve other places. The second thing we understand, this is very close to a church as well. I think North Metro Church, Baptist Church, is close to this stadium as well, where it's proposed to be. And, you know, once again, here's an opportunity. We talk about letting the people weigh in on this. The people are not going to get to vote on this particular issue. This is something that's going to be settled eventually here by both bodies. And, of course, whether or not the governor signs on to this or not is still to be seen. So that's some of our concerns about that particular bill. The other concerns that we have, of course, if this leads into an expansion of more alcohol sales on Sunday. And I guess I could, you know, I've got pages of stuff here I can read to you. You'll get copies of what I'm going to say to you today. I guess the bottom line in all this for us is not whether or not it's necessarily always practical, because people are going to say, well, gosh, they can walk across the street and get it over there, over here. And that could also be used to why we don't have to have it at the stadium, because they can get it over there. I mean, so it is accessible. We're beyond prohibition here. We're not talking about not having any alcohol. We have plenty of alcohol. And the bottom line we have to ask in all alcohol legislation is, do we want more? Will our society, will our communities be healthier and safer if we make more alcohol available? That's the bottom line. We're not even saying you should or should not drink. We're saying, is our society, the health and the safety of our communities, which is what you've been charged with in this community along with other representatives and us as community leaders, will our communities be safer and better off because of it? Or would it be better for us as a government entity, as you would agree, or community leaders to say, I think we have enough alcohol? Matter of fact, we ought to be, this body should be working at more restrictions on alcohol. The problems that we've got today, and there are other speakers here today that are going to give you some statistics. There's enough here to choke a horse of the detriment that alcohol is having on our society. And the last thing we need is more of it. And that's exactly what we say, and especially at these other type of venues. And many of you know, if you want to catch DUIs, hang around after a ball game. You know, even on a Saturday, you're going to see the DUIs that are out there. You're going to see the danger that's on the roads. Half of all traffic fatalities are somehow alcohol related. I've also served for 8 to 10 years as a police chaplain in Hartwell, Georgia, with the Hartwell Police Department. So I'm aware of this. A fourth of all emergency room admissions are alcohol related. A third of all suicides are alcohol related. Half of all domestic violence, homicides are alcohol. Third leading cause of death in America is alcohol. And what we have seen, where I have fought this from South Georgia all the way to North Georgia, is accessibility equals greater consumption. That's why they call it convenience stores. It makes it more convenient so you can get more of it. And you got to drink more of it or they don't make any money. You have to drink more. So the more you drink, the more the problems associated with alcohol are going to come. So the statistics I've just given you, to whatever extent or percentage, are going to increase the more people you have drinking alcohol. We're not here to say today that it's a sin necessarily to have a beer at a ball game. The point we're trying to say is, where are we going to draw the line? We think it's time to draw a line on this. And we think that the detriment of what is going on in our community is enough to indicate that. The bottom line is that, will our communities be safer? Will they be healthier because of this? And we think we shouldn't cop out by saying, just let the people vote. If this leads into a situation, the people have voted, they put you here. I've argued other cases in other hearings here, and I've heard, and Ed Lindsay, Representative Lindsay, reminded me the other day of something that Edmund Burke said, and that is in reference that representatives have responsibility to do what is right, not what is also always politically expedient, to do the moral thing, the right thing to do that you've been elected to do. This is an election year. This is an opportunity that we'll all have to weigh in on your decisions, and you'll have an opportunity to explain those decisions. I think it'd be a much, much safer way to go to be able to say, I weighed in on the health and the safety and the welfare of our city. We did that when we, I didn't get to vote on whether or not we could not have cigarettes smoking in a restaurant. Dr. Thomas said, look, this is a health thing. And he talked about how many people were being killed from cigarettes. We need to make that decision. Well, this is a health thing. Just because it may have a religious content, well, so does murder and theft has a religious content to it, of course. But that doesn't mean it's not something that we shouldn't consider for health reasons, for safety reasons. So, Chairman Williams, I appreciate the opportunity, and I'll be glad to entertain any questions that the panel may have. I have a pastor here who pastored in Clovis, New Mexico when there was changes in the alcohol availability laws on Sunday there, and he can testify as well today that availability and accessibility equals greater consumption, and greater consumption equals greater problems with alcohol, which allows other committees here in our state to have to do something about the social effects that it ends up costing us all out of our pocket.
Have any questions? Anybody? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman.
Next on the list is Ray Newman. Ray.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Committee. I'm Ray Newman, Specialist in Ethics and Public Affairs for the Georgia Baptist Convention. Georgia Baptist Convention was chartered in 1822 in Georgia by the state legislature before there was a chartering agency. And through the years, Georgia Baptists have always taken a stand when it comes to this matter of alcohol and the proliferation of it. And we have come down on the side of non-use of alcohol. Certainly, I like the Braves, and I love peanuts and apple pie, and all of those things appeal to me greatly, as they do to all of us. But concerned about the continual push to make alcohol, beer, wine more available to the citizens of our state. And as I look at our churches across Georgia, about 3,500 of them representing about 1.5 million people in our churches of the Georgia Baptist Convention, we feel very strongly because in the last several years when we have met in our annual meeting, we have had resolutions that deal with the issue of alcohol and the continual misery that it creates in our culture and in our society. I belong to an organization, the American Council on Alcohol Problems, that's based out of Birmingham, Alabama, and we're forever hearing from them those numbers of families that are impacted by increased availability and increased usage of it. Just this morning on Fox and Friends, I heard that now 17% of sixth graders in America are involving themselves in drinking alcohol. The more we have, the more available it is, the more it's affecting our families, it's affecting our health, it's affecting everything that we do. And so when we look at a bill such as this, and I certainly am for the stadium and all of those things that are taking place in regard to bringing the Braves to Gwinnett County, and looking forward to going to some of those games myself, but realizing that if this is going to open a door where we're going to say, well, we need more availability of alcohol, beer, wine, those kinds of things, then this is going to certainly continue a long-suffering need in our community that we certainly would stand opposed to as a part of the Georgia Baptist Convention. I won't bore you with all the facts and statistics that are out there. You've seen them and you've heard them, and I won't go into all of that, but we have those available if we need to. But I'll be glad to answer any questions that any of you might have.
Does anyone have any questions, Reverend Newman? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Next on the agenda is Mr. Willis Moore. Reverend Willis Moore.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to come here. I am Willis Moore, the Executive Director of the Georgia Council on Moral and Civic Concerns. Our parent organizations are the two United Methodist Conferences in Georgia and the Georgia Baptist Convention. We've been advocating for 65 years for the citizens of Georgia that are harmed by or caught in the clutches of alcohol, its use and abuse. I come before you today to urge you to step up with strong leadership for citizens who are vulnerable to the abuses of alcohol, and for those who see no means to curb its encroachment upon the health, safety, and economic and domestic concerns of their lives. Our opponents have attempted to use crass humor, denigration, and mockery to characterize the issue before us as a narrow holiday issue, for example. Their objections tend to sound like a spoiled toddler who does not get his selfish way. We contend that it's a much broader issue and much deeper than they say. What matters to us and what should matter to our leaders is not petulant, nor selfish, nor greedy interests. What matters is the common good. What is before us is a Pandora's box of negative issues, economic issues, health issues, public safety issues, and domestic tranquility issues, just to name a few. The Georgia Council on Moral and Civic Concerns recognizes that not all faiths observe Sunday as a holy day. However, nearly all faiths recognize the destructive powers of alcohol and its abuse. Georgia Council on Moral and Civic Concerns stands firmly for curbing alcohol use and abuse. The opportunity for excessive use or binge drinking is especially present on weekends, and the expansion of the sale of alcohol, including the Sunday sales, only exacerbates the problem. I want to cite the following items as just a few of the many economic, health, and public safety issues that are supporting our position. First, I cite the health issue. According to the Journal of American Medical Association, alcohol consumption is the third leading cause of death behind only tobacco, which is number one, and that's already been dealt with nationally. Obesity, or poor diet, and that's being addressed by our legislature in this very session. And then alcohol. Now I cite the economic issue, which by implication is also a public safety issue. Vance Muse, in his book, Don't Buy a Car Made on Monday, made a compelling case that the automobile industry suffers from the weekend hangover that impacts the quality production on the assembly line, and other businesses are impacted much the same way. This factor makes a strong economic case against the prolonged or binge drinking directly related to excessive use of alcohol. And college presidents are addressing this very issue of binge drinking right now. These are economic, health, and public safety issues. Next, I cite the finding that includes all three issues: health, economic, and public safety. The International Journal of Epidemiology conducted a study called Temporal Variation in Deaths Related to Alcohol Intoxication and Drinking. Their conclusion: intoxicated-related deaths peak during around weekends and festival days when alcohol is widely consumed in excess. Public awareness of the risk attached to binge drinking should be increased. Economic, public health, and safety issues, and many more, are included here. Each one of the references I mentioned impacts directly upon the home and domestic matters and tranquility of the home, and I don't need to elaborate on that. Economic, health, and public safety factors implicit in these items beg moral or responsible government to take a strong stand for the common good and curb the expansion of alcohol use and abuse. Anything less is an abdication of leadership by publicly elected officials. The proponents of increased alcohol availability argue that current laws infringe upon their personal rights. What they overlook is that government is in place for the common good. One drunk driver in an accident impacts more people than just himself or herself, It creates a ripple effect of increasing cost on society through increased insurance, medical, and law enforcement costs. When a drunk driver kills one or more one person, the impact increases exponentially. The fallout is often permanent, especially upon the family of those loved ones who are killed in the accident. Then there's the cost of prison, which results usually after a fatality, and that's imposed on society. For prisoners with cancer, AIDS, or other catastrophic health issues, the costs just multiply. The issue of expanded opportunity for alcohol use and abuse cries out for morally responsible government to abandon selfish interests and stand up for the common good. I appreciate your patient hearing and look forward to your responsible leadership. Thank you.
Any questions of the committee? Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is Pastor Tom Rush.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you on this. I certainly agree with my pastor brothers that have come before me, and as you can see, I've not brought any notes with me. I just want to speak to you from my heart. Now, my congregation would assume that means I'm going to talk longer, but I just want to say a couple of things. This is a hard issue for me. I'm the pastor that Mike Griffin spoke of in New Mexico. We had this issue. Our local community was led to vote down expanding alcohol sales. The rest of the state of New Mexico saw a significant increase in alcohol-related deaths and problems, and so to me that's proof positive. Our community did not experience that because the voters voted down those changes in our area. But the thing that concerns me is that we've got enough alcohol in our society. It's time for us to restrict it. The Braves notwithstanding, I was at the very first game played at Atlanta Fulton County Stadium. I've been a Braves fan for a long time and was one when it wasn't cool. When the Navy sent me to San Diego, I used to go out with a friend of mine to watch the Braves play the Padres as they battled for 5th place in the NL West. I understand what it is to be a Braves fan. And I've enjoyed many a Braves game, and I've never had to have a beer to enjoy it. In fact, some of the problems that I encountered at the stadium is from those who have had beers who were there. But here's my heart, gentlemen. If we sell more alcohol, more people are going to die. And I just want to tell you, I don't desire to ever again be called to the emergency room or the morgue or the police station and join a family from my church or join a family from your district or some other district in this state and have to be with them when they found out the terrible news of what alcohol has done to them. As the senator who presented the bill said, there's plenty of alcohol available in Gwinnett County, and I can assure you, as wonderful as Gwinnett County is, I don't live there, it's a wonderful county. They got plenty of problems from alcohol in Gwinnett County, and the more they sell there, the more problems they will have. And I believe the Braves have done fine, and I think they'll do great without selling beer on Sunday. I want to appeal to you, men. When someone gets in an alcohol-related problem or some family falls apart because of alcohol abuse, they're not going to pick up their phone at 3 o'clock in the morning and call their state representative. They're going to call the pastor. If they don't have a pastor, they're going to find a pastor. And it's pastors and law enforcement officials and medical personnel that have to pick up the pieces and try to help people put their lives back together. I appeal to you from my heart. Please don't expand the sale of alcohol in this wonderful state of Georgia. We have plenty already. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Rush. Turn the chairmanship over to my illustrious Vice Chairman, Steve Thunder Tumlin, and I would like to be recognized to present an amendment to Senate Bill 454.
Mr. Chairman, you're so recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill will be straightforward in its proposal, and the part that the lady senator introduced in section 1 of this amendment, I don't have any proposed changes or anything that would affect her bill. Section 2 brings up the proposition of alcohol sales by grocers and retailers on Sunday. This is a straightforward bill providing that alcohol can be sold under certain conditions. The first condition is that in order to be able to sell it in any municipality or any county, it must be legal now. If it's not, then this section would not apply, would not be available for anyone to vote to have Sunday sales on package stores and grocery stores and so forth. It's very restricted to serving hours or open hours from 12:30 p.m. on to 11:30 p.m. on Sunday. The first part of the bill applies only to wine and malt beverages, not counting distilled spirits. If they were not allowed to sell distilled spirits, then they would not be allowed to bring this to a referendum. It would be up to the governing authority of the city or the county to call for a referendum for this proposal, and it would just say, shall the governing authority of the name of the county or municipality be authorized to permit and regulate package sales by retailers of both malt beverages and wine on Sundays from 12:30 p.m. To 11:30 p.m. And the vote then would be yes or no on that proposal, and the governing authority would call for the referendum, and then it would be put on a ballot for people to vote yes or no. The majority of the votes were yes, then of course this would be legalized. The second part of the bill is identical to the first part, except it includes the distilled spirits. If distilled spirits are legal in the county or the municipality now, then they would be allowed to vote on it on that basis of allowing all three types of beverages to be sold with the same proposal, 12:30 to 7:30 to 11:30 p.m. 12:30 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. On Sunday, and also would call for the referendum the same as we did for the previous the proposition. So once this is done, this bill does not really do anything at all. It will be up to the people by referendum that this proposition would be allowed. I'd like to kind of just briefly go over what it will do. No one will be eligible to vote on this proposition unless it's legal in the city and the county or the local jurisdiction that it is now. There are definite hours for this to be allowed is from 12:30 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. There's no requirement in this bill that cities or counties are required to call for a referendum. If they don't want to bring this to the ballot, they certainly are not forced to do so. There's nothing that says that a store has to be open. We don't say that just because it's allowed that they have to open. It's their choice. If they decide they don't want to open on Sunday, then that's their prerogative. So the assumption that the adoption of this bill is going to just automatically allow Sunday sales is not really true, because there's several safeguards in the way that if they don't want to do it, then they don't have to do it, and they're not forced to do it in any way. This comes down to the point of allowing the citizens of the state to decide if this is something they want to do. I think the good Lord made us all with the capacity of free will. to allow a person to decide for themselves of what they want to do and what's best for them. And certainly this is what this does, and I would not want to deny the people of this state then to not be allowed to vote on something that they feel strongly about either way, for or against. So that basically is what this bill calls for. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the chairman? Mr. Freeman?
Mr. Chairman, thanks for bringing the amendment. If I were to support this, would it require my county to adopt Sunday alcohol sales?
No, sir. No county, no.
My county said no. It wouldn't.
It would not.
It wouldn't change a thing, right?
Right. And if a county is not now authorized to sell it, they would not be eligible for this at all. They would not be allowed to vote on it. They'd have to first of all vote themselves to be allowed to sell it to start with, only on those beverages that are allowed. But no, they would not be, and the county would not have to call it unless they just decided to do so.
Yield for another question?
Yes.
When we pass laws, don't you feel that we pass them to try to apply to as many people and as fairly as possible? Is that not a true statement?
I would think so. I think in looking after, that's what our job down here is, to represent the constituents back home, and if the overwhelming desire for something to be done, then I think that's our responsibility to allow the people to vote. I mean, after all, they're the ones that sent us here.
This issue obviously raises a lot of emotions in a lot of people. Whenever I think about the issue, I try to apply it to business, and that we try to apply the law fairly to every business. And just in my mind right now, we're not applying alcohol sales on Sunday to every business fairly. I know that you can access it. Every preacher here said you could access beer on Sunday at certain locations that you have to drive to. But this, if a community would allow equal application to alcohol sales, is that fair?
I would concur with you there, and I've agonized over this, and I've had a lot of input both ways, and I don't want to make this a religious issue, and I can certainly respect the pastors here and their concern about overconsumption of alcohol, but I don't know that it's a sin, and I've had pastors in my area say it is not a sin to drink, but the overindulgence, of course, is, and that's something we all are concerned about, the drunken drive. But the one thing about this portion of the bill that is unlike the original part, these people come to a grocery store, convenience store, and they buy whatever, and they go home with it, normally to watch a ball game or whatever. I can't see that this is much. I see it much less dangerous than going to a ball game. I've been to a lot of ball games, and I've seen what the preachers have said today. Overindulgent there, and you get in an automobile and run the risk of killing people. So there's a lot of difference. I think this ability to buy it and go home and away from causing other people danger has a lot of merit to it.
To refer back to the senator's portion of this bill, do you think it's fair to apply one standard to one community and not to the rest of the state?
I don't think so, but I'm going to let her respond to her part of it.
Thank you.
Mr. Mitchell?
Actually, Mr. Chair, my question has been asked and answered.
Can I ask you a couple just from example point of
Yes,
view?
sir.
On page 3, when you start on line 6, if you were in a county that just allowed the beer and wine, and a county wanted to add distilled spirits, to qualify under this section, would they have to have 2 elections?
If the county or the city is now not allowed to do it, they would first of all have to have a referendum to allow it to be sold during the week only.
Right.
Then if they decided they wanted to sell it on Sundays, there would have to be another referendum called by the local jurisdiction to allow Sunday sales. So there would have to be 2 referendums.
Like and on the other way, if you, on page 2 where the first option was, if you're in a county, that already that allowed liquor, distilled spirits, could a county that already allowed distilled spirits limit it just to the first choice, just to beer and wine on Sunday?
If they're allowed to all 3, the wine, beer, and alcohol, distilled spirits, they at that referendum, all 3 would be allowed to be voted on. if they're only allowed to serve malt beverages and wine, that's the only two they can allow. There would have to be that first referendum to bring in distilled spirits, and then the second referendum to allow all three to be sold.
So if a community really wanted to contemplate this, they'd have to go through two elections.
Two elections, that's correct.
Thank you.
I close and urge the committee to favorably consider it. I think it is a good, fair bill, and I think we've got two issues here. One is Coliseum sales, or public Coliseums, auditorium, and the one for package stores. I think they're both compatible, and I think that hopefully we go together, and I would like to see the committee favorably consider it.
All right, with that presented, would you like me to conduct it, and you would, along with the senator, maybe close after we have, I believe we have 4 more witnesses, or? Would you like that? Yeah.
She'll wait. She said she'd wait for the witnesses.
You want me to continue and ask for the witnesses? Or are you going to come back to your chairs?
I'll let you do whatever you decide to do, Mr. Chairman. So, but I would hopefully consider that the committee take action on the bill before we leave today. So
we'll allow you to reserve the right to come back with the senator in closing the bill. Is it Stuart Johnson?
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here strictly as a concerned citizen. I'm one of the 49,000 people that signed the petition for the right to vote on this issue, and I think we all deserve it, you know, up or down, on a religious basis or a personal desire. It's the idea that it can be kept in the house, squashed, you know, a religious group can sit on it or cause it to be sit on. That's the part that bothers me. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Mr. Johnson, appreciate it. Horace Hamilton.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. My name is Horace Hamilton. I serve as Vice President of Operations for the Georgia Division of the Kroger Company. We operate approximately 175 stores in Georgia, and we have over 20,000 employees. I'm a 39-year veteran of the Kroger Company, 24 of those years here in Georgia. I and my family live in Duluth, and we're proud to make Georgia our home. Kroger does not often testify at hearings such as this, and in this case we do so only because we have heard repeatedly and consistently from our customers that they desire the convenience and the option to purchase beer and wine 7 days a week in our stores. The comments from our customers have increased over the past several years as the retailing environment and shopping habits have changed in our community. There's no doubt that our customers would prefer to have the option to purchase beer and wine 7 days a week. Sunday is normally the second largest shopping day of the week in the state of Georgia, and in some stores, it's the largest shopping day. We know for a fact that 25% of our shoppers now shop our stores on Sunday, and between 9 and 10% of our customers shop only on Sundays. Georgia's current Sunday sales legislation has a negative impact on our ability to serve our customers. The impact is noticeable. At the front end of any Kroger store at the end of the day on Sunday, you'll find wine and beer, which has been brought to the registers by customers who were hoping to complete all of their shopping. As people move to this great state, they learn the hard way that the option to purchase these products is not available to them on Sunday. Importantly, this issue is also about free enterprise and basic economic fairness. Georgia is one of only 3 states in the United States that does not provide some option for the off-premise sale on Sunday of beer, wine, or liquor. Georgia is the only state in the Southeast where state law prohibits all off-premise sale of beer and wine on Sundays. In our border towns and cities, this fact puts Georgia retailers at a sales disadvantage and has resulted in lost revenue to Alabama, Florida, Tennessee, and South Carolina. Under current Georgia law, restaurants are permitted to sell beer, wine, and liquor by the drink every day of the week. This puts grocers and retailers at a disadvantage. Restaurants are tough competitors for the food dollar, and allowing them to sell alcohol on Sunday gives them an additional advantage. Additionally, personnel and operating costs remain the same on Sundays, though our potential for sales is limited by the alcohol restriction. Retailers are a major driving force in Georgia's economy and have historically been a major source of job growth. It's important for both current businesses and future investment that Georgia begins the process of moving where 47 states have already gone, eliminating the total prohibition of off-premise Sunday sales. This bill will not make Sunday sales automatic. Our customers and your constituents will hold the final approval. Customers in different regions of Georgia will be able to clearly state their desires on this particular issue. All we're asking is that they be given the chance to make their voices heard. I will conclude by mentioning that the Kroger Company is thankful for all of our customers and for the fact that they choose to shop in our stores. We deeply respect the beliefs and values of those who choose not to drink alcoholic beverages on Sunday or on any day. Our decision to speak on this matter is born out of a desire to offer all of our customers a choice and a convenient opportunity to purchase the products they want. For reasons of customer service, convenience, and free enterprise, we respectfully ask that you consider the legislation that would allow Kroger, Publix, Walmart, Food Lion, and other grocers and retailers to sell beer and wine 7 days a week. Thank you for the opportunity to address the committee, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Hamilton. Now, Kathy, could... Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Kathy Kazava, and I serve as president of the Georgia Food Industry Association. We represent the grocery stores across the state, ranging from the small mom and pop, the IGAs, the Piggly Wigglies that are across the state, on up to the Kroger's, Publix's, Food Lions, Walmart's, etc. And we're here to support Chairman Williams' substitute language. And in doing so, we are here asking you to support language that our customers have been asking us for many, many years. It does not make sense to them that under current law, our customers, your constituents, in many locations can go to a bar or a restaurant on Sunday, purchase alcoholic beverages, get in the car, and drive home, but yet they can't go to our grocery store, buy a bottle of wine, and come back to their home to enjoy it for dinner. This just simply does not make any sense to our customers. It's hard for us to explain it to their customers why this legislative body hasn't changed the law that 47 other states have chosen to change. The majority of Georgians clearly agree that Sunday alcohol sales should be left to the local communities to decide. We have over 47,000 people who have signed up on a petition started by an anonymous person, promise you it wasn't us, about 3 years ago, and it's just something that the media has gotten a hold of. Everybody is they're very consistent in their approach, in their thoughts, that Sunday alcohol sales should be left up to the local governments. We've certainly got the attention of many newspapers across the state. This is not just a metro issue. We are at the editorial boards from Athens Banner Herald, Brunswick News, Gainesville Times, Rome News Tribune, Walton Tribune, the AJC, Columbus Ledger Inquirer, Macon Telegraph, and Savannah Morning News have all supported the issue of letting the local communities decide what is right for their constituents. In conclusion, I urge your support of Chairman Williams' substitute language, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
If I may, there have been a couple, the reference to 3 states. What are the other 2?
Be Connecticut and Indiana, which actually is a very good question because so many people have said, well, Kathy, you have to remember this is the Bible Belt. But appreciate that question. It's Connecticut and Indiana are the other 2 states. Every other state surrounding Georgia does allow some form of Sunday sales. So our retailers, especially on the border states, are really getting killed. In the Columbus area, down Florida's been allowed to sell for a long time, but Publix has said, for example, since they've come into Georgia, I guess 17 years ago, only Florida was allowed to sell, but now every state surrounding Georgia is allowed to sell, and it's just not fair. And I certainly recognize when Senator Unterman was saying how frustrating it would be to have the restaurants very, very close to the stadium and them not, and the stadium not be able to sell. Well, what's frustrating, the beauty of the internet, Jason just pulled up for me where exactly the stadium was going, and there's a grocery store sitting right there. And so you'd be able to go into those restaurants and purchase alcohol, get in the car and drive home, but you couldn't go to the grocery store. It's not fair. It just doesn't make sense. So we'd appreciate your support.
Thank you, ma'am. No other questions? Mr. Jim Tudor.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, the hour is late. I know the House was late here last night, so my remarks will be very brief. This is a local option bill that deals with alcohol. Nothing will happen, as Representative Freeman says, unless local communities who decide their own local standards make the decision to put this before their voters. We let voters decide whether they're going to tax themselves for transportation. We let the voters decide on many, many other issues. Local option is something that you usually go to the ballot box at least once or twice in an election cycle to vote on these sort of things. The kinds of arguments that we've heard today are arguments that can be made in Hartwell, in Hart County, if the citizens of Hart County or Hartwell should decide to put this on the ballot. But they're not arguments that should be made to decide whether or not the people should be allowed to vote. So I urge you today to support the substitute. Let me, Ms. Kazava mentioned the grocery store in Gwinnett County by the stadium. We've dealt with a number of alcohol issues through this committee, whether it's limousines, shipping, the stadium. And I might point out to you that the amendment for local option is the only alcohol bill that this committee will deal with where the people will actually decide. The people will decide. Nothing will happen unless and I trust the citizens of Newton County, where I live. I trust the citizens of Hart County, where the Reverend lives. That's why we have community standards, and that's why we have local control. And I trust the citizens, and I ask that you trust the citizens too, and support the chairman's amendment. Thank you.
Any questions, Mr. Tudor? Thank you. Well, that was our public input, so I would like to close the meeting to the public input. And I think procedurally it might be best to start the discussion would be maybe for the chair to accept a motion as to accepting first Senate Bill 454 and then address the amendment second. Well, where I was heading, and this is to see which one you're going to close as to the amended or to the other. So we're not closing you out until, the amendment might not pass. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I have a quick question. Would you prefer to have a motion on the original bill or to adopt a substitute if that's the will of the committee? Which would be your position?
Unless there's an objection, I think, and since the substitute completely encompasses Senate Bill 454, that we just, unless somebody objects, just start with a motion as to the amended.
I'd like to go ahead and make a motion then, please. I'd like to move that this House do pass the substitute to Senate Bill 454.
And for clarity's sake, that's 1022S.
Correct. And may I continue?
Yes, sir.
On
And
that?
that now is open for discussion.
Thank you. I certainly appreciate the testimony that we've heard today. This is a weighty issue in our community and in our state. Yesterday afternoon, the House of Representatives tackled a bill that was the largest tax cut in the history of the state of Georgia. And the body made a decision to put that on the ballot and have the voters make that decision for themselves. And in being consistent with that philosophy, I too share Mr. Tudor's analysis of our communities of this state. And I trust the communities of our state to make the decision for what's best for them. And then we go as a state together. That's the reason that I make the motion today, and I urge the fellow members of this committee to support this measure.
Thank you. Senator, before we have more discussion, would you give your final presentation, please, ma'am? Yes, good time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the committee again. I guess I would say I'm in shock. I must be the stupidest person in this room because I did not know that there would be a substitute. I did not know that there would be an amendment. I feel like I'm caught between two gigantic tigers fighting. I have the religious community, which has always supported me, and I have always supported them. I come from a very conservative district, Senate District 45. I understand what they're saying, and they've always stood beside me and behind me, and I appreciate it. Then on the other hand, I have the convenience stores, the grocery stores, and I'm like David and Goliath, and I'm David, and I'm fighting these two giants. It puts me in a terrible, terrible position. I had no idea that an amendment was coming up, and I have to say I have worked with the lobbyist community with the convenience stores and the grocery stores. I have spoken to them all along. I have read in the newspaper what the Christian Coalition has said about this bill. They said they did not disapprove of it. Never at any time has anyone in the last month come to me and talked to me from the religious community opposing this bill. So I have to say I feel very betrayed by the lobbyist community. Kathy Cassava, I talked to her yesterday. I told her I did not approve of an amendment. Now, I know down here my opinion doesn't matter a whole lot. But since I did write the bill, I wrote the bill solely because I represent my Senate District 45. The Gwinnett County Commissioners came to me and asked me to do this for them. I agreed to do it. At no time did I ever envision or want this to be a vehicle for Sunday sales of packaged liquor. At no time. No time did this come up to me. Now, I've heard, the rumors that, we want to pass it. We want to pass it on your bill. We want to pass it on Balfour's bill. We want an amendment. I want you to know that in the Senate it passed 30-20. And part of the reason that it passed 30-20 was based upon my word. I got up and said, I'm doing this for economic development. I'm doing it for my region. I'm doing it for the state of Georgia to be able to raise money. My senators took my face value word. Senator Seth Harp got up and said, no. This is a vote on Sunday sales of packaged goods. And we all know that he's promoted that. And I recognize and, I'm cognizant of what he's trying to do. I'm not saying I agree with what he's trying to do. And I definitely did not agree with the fact that he's trying to put that issue on my issue. My issue is a standalone issue. My county wants to build a stadium. They want the Atlanta Braves farm team to come to Gwinnett County. I say you have to separate the two issues. And respectfully, Mr. Chairman, I disagree with your substitute. And I can tell you, I heard immediately when this bill passed in the Senate, I heard from the governor's office. I've read in the newspaper. I'm stupid, but I'm not that stupid. I know that this bill is going to be defeated. And what I can't understand is why we took it up in the Senate. It goes back to the House. House members, this is an election year. You're going to sit there and you're going to vote on it. It comes back to the Senate. It goes to the governor's office. It's going to be defeated. Why are you putting your members at risk? I know you're not the leadership. I don't know if you're not the leadership. I'm not the leadership. I'm not the leadership of the Senate. But I'm not a fool either. And I know in an election year, why do you go out on a limb knowing that the governor, unless you just want to throw this in the governor's face? Is that your objective? To just, pass this bill and let the governor veto it and blame everything on the governor? So instead, I guess I'm going to be the fall guy. I don't mind being the fall guy. I did this sincerely. I did it earnestly. I tried to work with the lobbyist community. I have to admit, I haven't worked with the religious community because they hadn't come to me. They hadn't said anything to me. But I truly believe if you go ahead and vote on it in the House, it's going to come back to the Senate. I'm going to disagree. It'll go to conference committee. It'll go back up for a vote. Why go through all this when the governor is completely saying he's going to veto it? He said he would sign the bill. He would sign the bill if it's a standalone bill. He said he would vote for Gwinnett County to be able to have a new stadium. He said he would not sign the bill with any amendments or any kind of substitute. And I just have to take everything at face value. I'm playing by the rules. Some people aren't. And we know who those people are. They're not playing by the rules. Because if they were, they would have come to me. This started out in December. They would have come to me and said, we're going to put this amendment on. No one has come to me and told me they're putting an amendment on. And I understand that's your prerogative. You can do whatever you want to do. You can put an amendment on. I understand that. But I'm just telling you, I do not approve of the amendment. I do not approve of a substitute. If it comes back to the Senate, I cannot get up in front of my senators with a 30-20 vote and earnestly say, I want the stadium, I want the beer, but I'm not going to vote for Sunday sales, and I'm not going to put your tail on the line for it. So, y'all can sit here and vote on it, but I'm just telling you, it's a rocky road that we're going down. It's a slippery slope. And I personally don't agree with that slippery slope.
Thank you. There are a couple of questions. Tito, I appreciate how forthright you were, and we'd like for you to stay within the loop as we continue to talk.
Okay.
I think you've added something to contemplate. Mr. Freeman, you were next.
Will you take some questions?
Yeah, sure.
I'm really surprised you didn't know that there was going to be an amendment.
I must live in a little shelter over there. I
didn't know you didn't know because I think everybody else in the Capitol knew.
Well, I didn't know. And I can sincerely say I did not know.
You came in and you made a great argument for why your stadium should have it for Sunday sales.
Right.
But the hypocrisy of what you just said is unbelievable and unconscionable to me. I mean, you made the argument for you're the one carrying the vehicle.
Right.
It's your argument.
But I never argued in favor of Sunday sales for alcohol
that is
in the grocery
appalling.
stores.
You did.
No, I didn't. Y'all are the ones that are mixing the two issues. I brought in a stadium and beer. I never brought in grocery stores, convenience stores, and alcohol being sold on Sundays. It's two different issues.
Well, I think there's a lot of hypocrisy in what you say because you support Sunday sales because it's good for you, but you don't want to give everybody else where it's economic development in my small rural community where there's one store and they need the economic development from Sunday sales as well. I mean, don't be hypocritical of it whenever you talk about it. I mean, I support your line of thinking.
Right.
And I want you to have the stadium. I hope you invite me to a baseball game there. But don't make an argument and then back off of it because it don't apply to everybody else.
Well, if you want to have Sunday sales of alcohol in your county, you have that ability to, just like Gwinnett County did years ago. They voted on a referendum, and they voted to have Sunday sales. 3 of the cities that are around this stadium, Beaufort, Suwanee, and Lawrenceville, all have Sunday sales. So our county has done that, and they have voted for it. But I understand what you're saying about the
You
hypocrisy.
want me to support you, but you don't want to support me. Is that right?
No,
That's
you
exactly
have
what
the
you have.
ability to be able to do it. But my
Thank you,
main
Senator.
question is, why would the House vote on this bill knowing that the governor is going to veto it with the amendment?
I don't know that.
And that's why you say I'm so hypocritical. I guess I recognize the fact that I've been told by the governor he's going to veto it, so therefore I'm not supporting the amendment.
Thank you.
Mr. Mitchell.
Senator Unterman, as one who shares part of the county with you in my legislative district, and who has worked with you a number of times, I can say that I don't think that you are a hypocrite. I think that you are doing what you feel is in the best interest of your district. And I think that perhaps how you framed what happened in this committee today would have been better couched if you said we think that what has happened here is you're doing what you feel is in the best interest of your district. I'm too am sorry to hear that you think that you've been misled or hijacked. I can tell you I've been on the opposite side on many issues with my colleagues on this particular committee, and I've just felt that our differences in point of view was that their constituencies' demands were different. And so that's what I'd like to look at this as. I believe that if everyone were to represent, the best interest of their district, in the final analysis it will all work out. I believe that the argument that was given earlier, that we should be consistent in our lawmaking. I don't think that we should have one set of principles, one set of laws, one set of way of doing things when it comes to some issues, and then we totally disregard that principle and those systems on others, and that's what brings us here today.
That's fine, and I appreciate what you're saying, and I'm not meaning to say that the committee, I think my anger and my hostility is towards the lobbyist community. I was here all day yesterday just like y'all were. No one from the lobbyist community came to me and told me that an amendment was going to be put on. I know they must have known it. It seems like they would have given me the courtesy of knowing that this is brewing. I would have given them the courtesy. I work on bills every day too, and I'm opposed to other things too. And all I'm asking for is to be honest. I was honest why I brought this bill forward, and I'm just asking for them to be that way too. And obviously, I do not feel that they were that way, and I'm sorry.
Representative Jurgensen.
I'll waive.
Yes, sir.
You want me to? Is that it for me?
You can hang around a little bit longer.
Mr. Chairman, let me make a few comments here. I certainly don't want to think that the senator has been blindsided. 2 weeks ago, I got word from the governor's office that they had concern about an amendment being put on this bill. And I made the governor's office aware at that time I intended to do what I did. And they said, well, they may have problems. And I said, well, that's fine. I just want to let you know my intentions. Chairman of the Senate Committee a week ago asked me what I was going to do, and I fully informed them what my intentions were. And I saw the chairman as early as this morning, wanted to know if I was going through with it, and I indicated that I would. So I don't think there's been any secrets about the fact that I've tried to hide this amendment or anybody else has tried to hide the amendment, and I feel like it's been fully broadcast in the news media and the halls of the legislature. The one thing that I am concerned about as far as the governor's decision, and he has not said that directly to anyone about the veto, is my question about the fairness of it. What is fair about allowing one and not the other when you're talking about the same product? I just don't understand that at all, and maybe he can explain that later on. But I just want to make sure that we understand that there was nothing on my part to hide or deceive anyone about my intentions, and it had been completely above board and honest.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Any other comments? Mr. Freeman?
I'd like to call for the vote. Call for the vote.
Well, the motion's been, it's been called to a vote. It doesn't appear to be any further discussion. All those in favor of adopting the substitute SB 454 being LC 361022S, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Senator.